Welcome, everybody, to yet another edition of the DLLS Stars Emergency Pod. It's that kind of emergency season, or season as the kids like to call it, alongside Sean Shapiro, who's stationary. I'm Owen Newkirk, also stationary. And mobile, Craig Ludwig, somewhere in the drive.
No hands. I don't need hands in this car. Look at this, just moving right along.
The short of this is Luddy has a new vehicle, and he's enjoying the lane assist keep and the adaptive cruise control. And Luds, pretty soon you'll be able to sit in the back seat with your feet up as you drive up and down from Dallas to Wisconsin.
Yeah, I ain't digging this whole setup. I don't like it. I'm a little freaked out about it. So.
All right. Well, the reason why we're here, and we're going to keep this on a tight 15 today, is that we have reporting that Glen Gulutzan will be the next head coach of the Dallas Stars. The team has not yet officially announced it, but Sean, from your reporting and others in the NHL, they are saying this is just a matter of the team officially making this announcement.
Yeah, just to kind of give people the update. From my understanding of how everything is right now, there's an agreement for Glen Gulutzan to be the next head coach of the Dallas Stars. Glen has agreed to that. Jim Nill and the Dallas Stars have agreed to that, and now it's the final piece is hammering out contract details. Now, I will be honest, I don't know which contract details they still have to figure out. I don't know whether that's term or money. I'm not sure what still has to be hammered out on that. So, but the important thing is, in principle, the Stars have made their choice, and they've decided to reunite with Glen Gulutzan, who obviously was the coach in Dallas now a dozen years ago, and in a bit of irony or whatever terminology we want to use to properly to find it in the dictionary, one of Jim's first ever moves as a GM 2 weeks into his in 2 weeks after he got hired here in Dallas was firing Glen Gulutzan. So life is comes full circle, I guess, there. So yeah, Glen Gulutzan, and once T's are crossed and I's are dotted, will be the next head coach of the Dallas Stars.
Don't forget those lowercase J's as well. But Luds,
yes.
The feeling here when you hear that it's Glen Gulutzan is going to be the guy.
Well, yeah, but I thought there was a long runway here. We were going to take your time and all this other kind of stuff we've been hearing for the last few days. So, I just like everything else, all the coaches were going to stay and nobody's going anywhere. Again, I don't know if we should believe anything that's being said. So, no, I think for everybody that's available, like I said the other day and yesterday, I think Gully, had that kick at the can here, and it was not. There was a big majority of that was not on Glen Gulutzan because of where the Stars were at that particular moment. Same with Joe Nieuwendyk. But what I like about Gully is he's been gone. He's been a couple different organizations. He's dealt with some superstars. He's dealt with good goaltenders, average goaltenders, and so I think he's built up his resume, and he knows what he has here. I think he has a relationship with some of the players that are here now. And obviously with the city and everything else. So, like I said, if there would have been somebody else, if it was Quenneville or somebody like that, it would be a different story. But now you've got a fresher guy coming in, not this whole college coach stuff. And you got a guy that's, he's kind of cut his teeth in the league. And so I look forward to having him back there and see what he does. And the one big question I have is, I'm more concerned if Naz is sticking around.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I think based on what Jim Nill said yesterday, Sean, it sure sounds like he meant to keep Alain Nasreddine in the fold.
Yeah, and that is the plan as of right now. Everything I've heard is that Nasreddine will be back next season working on the Stars bench, and there's no change to that. Now, if you're Alain, I guess this is your... I don't know. It's the whole, are you going to leave for a better job? Because he very well may be the top assistant for this Dallas team. Like I know we pretend that there's
The hierarchy.
Yeah, the hierarchy. He may be the second in command, so he's still going to be there. The other thing that just kind of is interesting for me that I come away from on all of this is the Stars the past 2 years, right, have gotten through 2 rounds of the playoffs, and then they have just looked completely outmatched by the Edmonton Oilers. And I'm not saying you always have to go, if you can't beat them, join them, but that's basically a little bit of what Jim is doing here right now, where you're talking about a person who has been intimately involved in the destruction of the Dallas Stars in the Western Conference Finals the past 2 years, has been, I mean, Luds, you know firsthand, there's so many, he knows every single wart that exists in the Dallas Stars because the Oilers coaching staff have spent hours and hours and hours breaking that down. So he comes in with a spot of, as a recent rival, as a person who dispatched them in the playoffs, as someone who knows exactly what he needs to work on. So if he faces his old team in the same round in year 3, something different happens. So that to me is an intriguing part of this too, because I think it's someone who comes in with some familiarity. I think there's the connection to Jamie Benn is a good thing. I think you bring in a coach that I know Jamie is a fan of Glen Gulutzan, the human. That to me is an instant when you have your captain and the coach on the same page.
That's a good point.
That's going to be a really good kind of building block right there. He's also someone who's been removed long enough where he is not part of quote unquote Dallas Stars culture. He comes in with his own eyes, his own set of things learned from the NHL. I think it's a really good mix personally, and I said it right after Game 5 when they lost to Edmonton. I thought Glen Gulutzan would be a great hire for this team. So
we will play that clip on Monday.
Yeah,
I promise you, we'll give you credit for that.
I don't have holes to poke into it, but I'm willing to talk about the holes other people might have.
Sure.
Because this is a hire I would agree with and what I would have done.
Well, again, we have a show tomorrow. I'll be in New York. Sean will be in Michigan. Sam will be, I think, in California. I don't know where he's going to be. Luds will be somewhere near Wisconsin, maybe even in Wisconsin. Who knows? If wherever the car takes you now, Luds, since you don't even have to hang onto the wheel. But for just a quick summary, for those that are less familiar with Glen Gulutzan, after being a player, and he played in the Western Hockey League, and he played in the IHL, and he played in the WCHL, which eventually merged with the ECHL. He became a player assistant, and then he was the head coach in Las Vegas with the Wranglers for a number of seasons, hired by the Stars to be the Texas Stars' first head coach when they moved to Cedar Park, was there for 2 years, made it to the Calder Cup finals in his first year with Jamie Benn, by the way, as a playoff player for him. Then in 2011, he became the head coach of the Dallas Stars after Mark Crawford was fired, and he was the coach for a year and a half because the second year, the first half of that season was a lockout, so we only coached 48 games in year 2. That was the year that Yager was there, but then also got traded and turned into a first-round pick thanks to Boston getting to a conference final. I believe that turned into Jason Dickinson, but I digress. Then after 2 years with Dallas, he was an assistant with the Vancouver Canucks for the next 3 seasons, then was hired by the Calgary Flames, got to the playoffs in year 1, out of the playoffs in year 2, was fired, and he's been an Edmonton Oilers assistant since 2018. Luds, after all of that, he has been in coaching consistently without a break since he became a player assistant with Fresno in the WCHL back in 2001. This guy has been living the hockey life for decades.
I would say it's everything that you're looking for if you're looking for a new coach and with the kind of makeup of the team that you have now. As Sean was talking about earlier, he's been down so many different roads. He's seen so many different scenarios and situations. And no, he doesn't have 1,000 NHL games under his belt, which is probably a good thing. And I think he'll come in with some freshness. What Sean started out talking about a little while ago, it's so important, as he said, is that, but the point is, though, Sean, they've got to get back to play Edmonton. I mean, maybe Edmonton doesn't make it next year. Maybe Dallas doesn't either. But that's so true because I have talked to so many players just about individually, and to nail it down to what my philosophy is like the only way that I was going to be able to survive is I had to know what a player's plan A was, and then I wanted to make sure I knew what that was, and I took that away first. and I made him go to plan B so that you can throw somebody off a little bit. Same thing with Gully. Like when you want to talk about, I don't think you're going to have a book on Connor McDavid. I don't know if there's anything that he can't handle, that he can't find out. But as a team and systems and power plays and penalty kills and all that, should they get back to playing each other, and we'll notice that during the season, right? We'll get to see it happen 3-4 times or whatever their thing is this year, and I think that'll be a good gauge. And I do think even some other teams that we're going to see, how does Gully handle some teams that Dallas may have had some problems with, not teams that they've been able to handle. I'm always more interested in if Dallas had a team or 2 or 3 that gave them a hard time. Let's see what those adjustments are.
Sean, one of the questions that people had was, why not internal? Why not Elaine Nasruddin? Why not Neil Graham? To you, we've talked about this, all of us at length, why having an external candidate to become your coach, is that so important, do you think, for this team right now in this circumstance?
To me, the whole external part of it was, I think if you're talking about I don't know how much, like Elaine Nasruddin interviewed for the job. And I'm not saying he's not deserving of being an NHL head coach, but Elaine Nasruddin, when you talk about we need to change the status quo, we need to change things, in many ways it's still the same staff, just a different person at top. So I think, to me, having someone come from the outside, even Neil Graham at least still would have been someone from the quote unquote outside, because he hasn't been in the Dallas Stars room, even though he's been part of the organization.
Right.
So I liked I think that was kind of the problem Nasruddin ran into, where it was just it's hard to say, hey, we're changing the coaching staff around and we're changing the status quo if you're going to have someone internally be your head coach from the staff. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, just from the other thing that I just want to bring up real quick, just because I know we want to keep this tight and just to get, because this point is important to me. Everyone looks at Glen Gulutzan's time in Edmonton, and it's easy to say they have Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. Of course, they should have a great power play. And they do have a great power play. But I could take you back to the 2017-18 season. It's the Oilers had a 14.8 efficiency on the power play. Literally worst power play in the ranked 31st in the league. There's 31 teams in the league that year. Ranked 31st in the league, 14.8%, worst team in the league. The next year, Glen Gulutzan comes in, and the Oilers have had one of the NHL's best power plays for 8 years under Glen Gulutzan. They set the modern-day power play efficiency record. And I've seen Glen Gulutzan speak now multiple times at coaches' conferences. One of the things that really connects to me when I'm hearing Gulutzan speak, and I know I've talked to players about this as well, is he does a really good job of connecting with elite players and helping them see where there's other options for them. He doesn't put things into a box. It's more so, here's guidelines. For example, one of the things we're probably going to hear about the Stars power play with Glen Gulutzan is 3 passes and fire. That's it is not a strict rule. I want to be clear on that. But one of Gulutzan's views on the power play is, if you've made 4 passes, you've made too many passes on the power play. You should be,
and boy, that's what Lud's talked about that all year when the Stars were having any kind of struggles. Yeah. It was, and speaking of Luds, it was getting those shots to the net and getting retrievals and creating chaos, not just working the perimeter.
So it's not going to be a strict rule, but it's going to be similar to how, for our basketball people who talk about what was the old Suns 6 seconds or less offense type like that. It's that philosophy on the power play where once you've made that 3rd pass, you better be shooting. And there's things like that helped unlock Draisaitl and McDavid's game. Now, those are great players. Yes, they probably succeed no matter who, but you have to give Glen Gulutzan credit for helping turn that power play from literally the worst thing in the league to one of the best in NHL history 4 years later. So that's something Glen deserves credit for. The other thing that Gulutzan, to me, just the reality of the situation when it comes to fire and the tenacity and everything like that. He is calmer, he's cooler looking and everything like that, but he does have the fiery.
He's fiery.
Side. He does have the.
You know what I'm thinking about?
Yeah, I know, and we've got a clip that we'll show probably tomorrow of where of how he'll handle players and everything like that. So, to me, this was Glen Gulutzan was the I don't want to say the right coach, but he was there at the wrong time for it was for him with the Stars the first time around. He might have been the right coach, but it was the wrong time. To me, he's the right coach at the right time this time around.
I want to throw one thing at you really quickly, and then we should wrap this up because we all have things to do, and we have a show tomorrow. We can talk about this at length. Our friend, a good buddy, Mike McKenna, who is a former Dallas and Texas Stars goalie, tweeted this about a half hour ago, Sean, and I think it's really important to bring up this perspective from McKenna because he played as a player in Las Vegas in the ECHL with Gulutzan. He has experience with Dallas and Texas in the NHL and AHL, so he knows both the coach and the organization. He tweeted, Glen Gulutzan is easily one of the best coaches and people I've encountered in hockey. Details, passion, humility, that's Gully. My career doesn't exist without him giving me a chance in the ECHL with the Wranglers. Think the world of the Gully hire. I owe him a ton. I'm paraphrasing that because I read that a little funny, but I think very highly of Mike McKenna's opinion, his perspective. He's been around everywhere. And so when a guy like that gives that vote of confidence, I think that goes a long way to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've just said, I'm not the person to rip this hire apart. I'm the person that mentioned this as something that I would do if I was in Jim Nill's chair before he even fired Pete DeBoer. So I'm really looking forward to actually going in depth tomorrow, like when we have a show tomorrow, of going over some of the other things, and we can look at. And I'd love for people, hey, be a DLLS diehard, join the Discord. I'd love for Sam to go compile some of the questions that people have about, hey, how should we look at this versus this? I'd love for diehards to bring those questions so we can talk a little bit more of them. But for me, just in this final 5 seconds, so we can get out of here quickly and make this actually an emergency pod length, I think it's the right hire at the right time for the Stars. I think it's a move that combines a little bit of tie to the past. There's a connection with your captain. It's a guy who has defeated your team in the playoffs multiple years, who connects well with star players, and I think brings the right attitude to a group of it and understands what is at stake here with this job as well. So I'm going to defend the Glen Gulutzan hire, but I'm happy to talk more and more all about this. So
hey, Luds, your connection was amazing at the start. Can you still hear us?
He just texted.
I know, I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw it. Okay, I think he's frozen out. So Elijah, send Luds away, and that will wrap things up because he was phenomenal until his connection wasn't so great. Yeah. So we'll have Luddy on location and not probably mobile tomorrow. Big thank you to Elijah Smith, our producer, for getting our emergency pod together so quickly. Sam will be reporting from development camp, which starts tomorrow in Frisco. I would imagine, Sean, and that's the last thing I want to end on because we do have to get going. Jim Nill said, and we have give me a bing bong, Sean, real quick.
Bing bong.
T Farmer with a Haskin in 99, a super chat. Interesting hire, inside knowledge hire. And that goes back to your conversation of he knows players on this team. He knows the GM already, right? Even if it was I fired you with one of my first acts. And he knows this team from being one of the highest playoff stage opponents in each of the last 2 years. I think that's really, really a good thing to do there. What I was going to say to you was going to the timing that Luds was sort of teasing of saying, hey, you said you weren't in a hurry. Yeah, but the ability to have that buttoned up before Tuesday's free agency start does mean something. It's not the end of the world. I think Jim Nill is capable of putting this roster together without, but it will be very helpful once they officially announce it, have all their lowercase j's dotted. And I think that'll be really important. Oh, we have another one real quick. How short of a leash, a bing bong from Mark Lowry with a little, that's still the Brendan Smith in Year After the Cup. How short of a leash will he be on? Well, I don't think he'll get a 5-year commitment. Maybe you will. Who knows? But what I tell you, Sean, is that he's not coming in with the idea that if it doesn't work in the first 2 months, they're going to fire him. That's not how that works.
Yeah, you don't take a job with a short leash. That's not the deal. He's coming in for if it's a coaching, I don't know, but based off typical coaching contracts, it's probably a 3 to 4 year deal.
Yep.
One of the things that so I would imagine a 3 to 4 year deal, and this is a big bet by Jim Nill, right? Firing Pete DeBoer was Jim Nill's decision. This is all a big bet by Jim Nill on everything. So, and the other thing, just real quick, just to add for July 1, not as much player acquisition, but also you still do have to fill probably 2 assistant spots as well. And so getting things done here, and I know like there's other NHL teams with assistant spots. You kind of want to have your head guy in place so you can start maybe so you don't lose. Maybe you've got a guy, or just like we know Neil Graham interviewed for the job. We know other teams are interested in Neil Graham as a power play coach. If you're Dallas,
and Edmonton now will have an opening
exactly. So
as well.
If you're Dallas, you also want to look to fill out those other spots. So if he was your guy, if you woke up, say it was this morning, and you said, you know what, he's our guy, you get it done. You do it, and then you move forward. So.
All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us on this emergency pod. It's time to hit the airport. Traveling up, I will see you guys with Sean, Sam remote, Luds remote tomorrow, 2:00 Central Time, as we have a DLS Stars podcast getting ready the day before free agency -1. All that coming up. Big thank you to Elijah again for producing. For Sean, for Luds, who did not crash, I promise you. He's just going back to his Metallica music. I'm Owen. Glen Gulutzan will be the next head coach of the Dallas Stars. We're just waiting for an official announcement. And when they do, we'll have already done the emergency pod right here on DLLS.
We all silly like the mayor.